The snow fell softly on Christmas Eve, each flake catching the warm glow from the stained glass windows of St. Catherine's Church. The old stone building sat on a corner in the downtown district, a landmark that had stood for over 100 years while the city grew and changed around it. The evening service had just ended, and families were streaming out into the winter night, bundled in coats and scarves, heading home to their celebrations. On the side steps of the church, away from the main entrance where most people passed, sat a young woman who watched the happy families with an expression that held no bitterness, only a quiet sadness. Her name was Anna, though most people who passed her on the street didn't bother to ask. She was 23 years old, with long blonde hair that needed washing and a thin beige dress that was completely inadequate for the winter cold. Her feet were bare despite the snow, her shoes having fallen apart 2 weeks ago, and she had nowhere warm to go when the shelter beds filled up, which they always did around the holidays. Anna had been homeless for 8 months, since the series of misfortunes that had started with her mother's death and had cascaded into job loss, eviction, and the slow erosion of everything she'd once thought was stable in her life. She'd tried the shelters, the assistance programs, the job applications. She'd tried staying positive, staying hopeful, but winter was hard, and Christmas was harder. And tonight she sat on the cold church steps because at least the building blocked some of the wind, and the light from the windows made her feel less alone. She heard the child before she saw her, a small voice, bright and curious, breaking through the adult conversation happening nearby. "Daddy, why is that lady sitting in the snow?" Anna looked up and saw a little girl, maybe 3 years old, with blonde pigtails and a red coat that looked like something from a storybook. The child was pointing at Anna with the unself-conscious directness of someone too young to have learned that it's rude to point. "Emma, don't point," said a man's voice, and Anna saw him then. He was probably in his early 30s, tall and well-dressed in a dark coat and suit, with dark hair and the kind of face that suggested he was used to being in control of situations. He held the little girl's hand, and his expression, when he looked at Anna, was complicated. Concern mixed with something that might have been discomfort or pity. "But Daddy, she doesn't have shoes," the little girl said, her voice rising with distress. "And it's snowing." "I know, sweetheart," the man said gently. "But we need to get to Grammy's house for dinner. Come on." But the little girl, Emma, pulled her hand free, and before her father could stop her, she'd run over to where Anna sat on the steps. Up close, Anna could see that Emma's eyes were blue and full of empathy that seemed too mature for someone so small. "Hi," Emma said. "I'm Emma. What's your name?" Anna swallowed hard, unused to being spoken to like a person rather than an obstacle. "I'm Anna." "Are you waiting for someone?" Emma asked. "Is your family coming to get you?" "No," Anna said quietly. "I don't have family." Emma's face crumpled with sadness. "No family? Not even for Christmas?" Anna shook her head, not trusting herself to speak. Emma looked at Anna for a long moment, her small face serious. Then she said, with the simple wisdom of a child, "I think you need a hug." And before Anna could respond, before she could say that it was okay, that Emma didn't need to worry about her, the little girl had stepped forward and wrapped her small arms around Anna's neck. Emma smelled like cookies and baby shampoo, and her hug was fierce and warm, and Anna felt something break open inside her chest. She'd been so strong for so long, keeping her emotions locked down because showing vulnerability on the streets was dangerous, but this unexpected kindness from a child she didn't know undid her completely, and she found herself crying into Emma's red coat while the little girl patted her back and said, "It's okay. It's okay to be sad sometimes." The man, Emma's father, had reached them by then. Anna looked up at him through her tears, expecting to see disapproval or disgust. Instead, she saw her own emotions reflected back at her. The man's eyes were bright with tears he was trying to hold back. "I'm sorry," Anna said quickly, gently disentangling herself from Emma's hug. "I didn't mean to." "I'm sorry." "No," the man said, his voice rough. "Don't apologize. I'm the one who should apologize. I was going to walk past. I was going to take my daughter to a warm house with too much food and too many presents, and I was going to walk past someone sitting barefoot in the snow on Christmas Eve." He crouched down beside Emma, and Anna noticed his expensive shoes getting wet in the snow, but he didn't seem to care. "My name is Michael," he said. "Michael Crawford, and my daughter is right. You need more than a hug, but it's a good start. When's the last time you ate?" Anna tried to remember. "Yesterday, I think." "The mission had lunch." Michael's jaw tightened. "Okay, here's what's going to happen. We're going to my mother's house for Christmas dinner. There's always way too much food, and she always sets extra places because she says, you never know who might need a seat at the table. Today, that seat is for you. Will you come?" Anna stared at him. "I can't. Look at me. I'm dirty. I don't have shoes. I can't go to your mother's house for Christmas dinner." "You can and you will," Michael said firmly. "Emma's right. Nobody should be alone on Christmas. And my mother would be furious with me if I left you here. So please, come with us." Anna wanted to refuse. She had her pride, what was left of it. But she was so cold and so tired. And Emma was looking at her with such hope that she found herself nodding. "Okay," she whispered. "Thank you." Michael took off his coat and wrapped it around Anna's shoulders, then picked her up before she could protest. "You're not walking barefoot through the snow," he said simply. Emma held onto Anna's hand as they walked to Michael's car, a sleek vehicle that was warm inside and smelled like leather and pine air freshener. The drive to Michael's mother's house took 20 minutes. Through neighborhoods that got progressively nicer, Anna sat in the back seat with Emma, who chattered happily about Christmas and Santa and the cookies she'd helped. "Grammy make." Michael was quiet, occasionally glancing at them in the rearview mirror with an expression Anna couldn't quite read. The house they pulled up to was beautiful, a large colonial-style home with lights strung along the roofline and a wreath on the front door. Anna's anxiety spiked. "Michael, I really don't think I should go in there. I don't fit. I'll ruin your family's Christmas." "You won't," Michael said. "Trust me. My mother is going to love you." He was right. Michael's mother, whose name was Patricia, took one look at Anna and immediately ushered her inside, making no comment about her appearance beyond. "Oh, honey, you must be freezing. Let's get you warmed up and fed." The house was full of family, Michael's sister and her husband, his brother and 2 teenage nephews, and Patricia holding court over all of them with warmth and efficiency. They barely blinked when Michael explained that Anna would be joining them for dinner. And within minutes, Anna found herself upstairs in a guest bathroom with Patricia, who was running a hot bath and laying out clean clothes. "These were my daughters," Patricia said, gesturing to a soft sweater and jeans. "She's about your size. Take your time, warm up, and come down when you're ready. Dinner won't be for another hour." "Mrs. Crawford?" Anna started, but Patricia held up a hand. "Patricia, please. And you don't need to explain anything. My grandson saw someone who needed help, and my son did the right thing by listening to her. That's all I need to know." After the bath, wearing clean clothes and with her hair washed for the first time in weeks, Anna looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. She looked almost normal, almost like the person she used to be before everything fell apart. Dinner was overwhelming in the best way. The table was crowded with food and family, and everyone went out of their way to include Anna in the conversation without asking invasive questions about how she'd ended up on the church steps. They talked about ordinary things, work and school, and the funny thing that happened at the grocery store. And for 2 hours, Anna felt like a regular person instead of someone to be pitied or avoided. Emma insisted on sitting next to Anna, and throughout the meal, the little girl would periodically lean over and hug Anna's arm or rest her head against her shoulder. Each time, Anna felt her heart squeeze with a mixture of gratitude and grief for everything she'd lost. After dinner, as the family moved to the living room for presents and coffee, Patricia pulled Anna aside. "I want you to know something," Patricia said. "My husband died 5 years ago, and that first Christmas without him, I was lost. I sat in this house that felt too big and too empty, and I wondered what the point was of celebrating anything when the person I loved most was gone. And then my grandson, who was just a few months old at the time, smiled at me. Just a baby smile, probably gas, but it reminded me that life goes on, that there's still joy to be found, still reasons to celebrate, still people who need us." She took Anna's hand. "You're here for a reason tonight. Maybe it's so Emma could learn about compassion. Maybe it's so Michael could be reminded that success means nothing if we don't use it to help others. Or maybe it's because you needed to remember that you're not alone, that there are people who care about you even if they just met you. Whatever the reason, I'm glad you're here. Anna had to wipe her eyes. Thank you for everything. I don't know how to repay you. You don't repay kindness, Patricia said. You pass it on. But right now, you focus on getting back on your feet, and we're going to help you do that. Over the next few days, true to Patricia's word, the Crawford family mobilized. Michael, who Anna learned was a successful business owner, made calls to contacts and found Anna a job at a friend's company. Patricia helped her apply for emergency housing assistance and got her into a transitional living program. Michael's sister donated clothes and toiletries. His brother's teenage sons, who needed community service hours for school, volunteered to help Anna move into her new apartment when it became available. But more than the material help, the Crawfords gave Anna something she'd lost on the streets: dignity. They treated her like a person with value, someone whose opinions mattered, someone worth investing in. Michael especially went out of his way to check on her, to make sure she had everything she needed, to offer support without making her feel like a charity case. "Why are you doing all this?" Anna asked him one evening as they had coffee at a diner near her new apartment. She'd been in the transitional housing for 3 weeks, had started her new job, and was beginning to feel like her life was on track again. Michael was quiet for a moment. "Do you know how Emma's mother died?" Anna shook her head. She'd noticed that Emma's mother was never mentioned, but hadn't wanted to pry. "Car accident," Michael said. 2 years ago. Drunk driver ran a red light. Emma was in the car too, but she was okay physically. Rachel, my wife, died at the scene." He looked down at his coffee. "For a year after that, I was just going through the motions. Taking care of Emma, running my business, but not really living. I was hollow inside. And then on Christmas Eve, Emma saw you on those church steps, and she did what I should have done without prompting. She saw someone who needed help, and she helped them." Michael looked up at Anna. "She reminded me that we're not put on this earth just to accumulate wealth or achieve success. We're here to take care of each other. My wife knew that. She volunteered at the homeless shelter every week. She'd be ashamed of the person I'd become, someone who'd walk past someone in need because it was uncomfortable or inconvenient. Emma gave me a chance to be the person Rachel would want me to be, the person I want to be. So thank you for letting us help you." Anna reached across the table and took his hand. "You saved my life. Not just by giving me a meal or helping me find a job. You saved my life by treating me like I mattered when I'd forgotten that I did." 6 months later, Anna stood in her own apartment, small but hers, getting ready for dinner at the Crawfords' house. It had become a weekly tradition. Sunday dinners where Emma would tell elaborate stories about her week at preschool, and Michael would talk about work, and Patricia would feed them all too much food. Anna had been promoted at work. She'd reconnected with an old friend from college. She'd started taking art classes at the community center, rediscovering a passion she'd abandoned years ago. Her life was rebuilding piece by piece. But more than any of that, she had a family again. Not by blood or marriage, but by choice. The Crawfords had welcomed her into their lives with open arms. And she'd found that family wasn't about biology or legal relationships. It was about showing up for each other, about seeing someone's need and meeting it, about loving without condition or expectation of return. As Anna drove to dinner that Sunday, she thought about the woman she'd been 8 months ago, sitting barefoot on church steps in the snow, certain that her life was over. And she thought about a little girl in a red coat who'd looked at a stranger and said, "I think you need a hug." That hug had saved her. Not because it was magic, but because it reminded her that she was still human, still worthy of love, still deserving of kindness. And from that moment of connection, everything else had followed. When Anna arrived at the Crawford house, Emma ran to meet her at the door, throwing her arms around Anna's waist with the enthusiastic affection of a child who'd never learned to hide her feelings. "Anna, I missed you. Can you help me with my art project after dinner? It's a painting of you and me and Daddy." "Of course," Anna said, hugging Emma back. "I'd love to see it." Michael appeared behind his daughter, and he smiled at Anna with warmth that had evolved over the months from pity to respect to something that neither of them had quite named yet, but that felt like the beginning of something important. "Hey," he said. "I'm glad you could make it." "I wouldn't miss it," Anna said honestly. "This is my favorite day of the week." As they walked into the house where Patricia was, already setting the table and the smell of roast chicken filled the air, Anna felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for the help she'd received, though that had been life-changing, but for the reminder that the world was full of good people. That kindness was real. That connection was possible even when you felt most alone. A little girl had offered her a hug on a snowy Christmas Eve, and that simple act of compassion had rippled outward, transforming not just Anna's life, but the lives of everyone it touched, because that's what kindness does. It starts small, with one person seeing another's pain and choosing to acknowledge it, to ease it, to sit with it, and sometimes, if you're very lucky, that moment of kindness becomes the foundation for something lasting. A friendship, a family, a life rebuilt not on what was lost, but on what was found in the spaces between. Anna had been lost on those church steps, but Emma had found her. And in being found, Anna had discovered something she thought she'd lost forever: hope. Not the naive hope that everything would be easy, but the stubborn, resilient hope that even in our darkest moments, there are people who will reach out their hands and say, "I see you. You matter. Let me help." That's the story of how a homeless woman on church steps was saved by a child's hug and a family's compassion, and how in saving her, they saved themselves, reminded of what truly matters in life, recommitted to the values that make us human, reconnected to the truth that we're all part of the same human family, and we all have a responsibility to care for one another. It's a story about the transformative power of simple kindness and the extraordinary things that happen when we let ourselves be moved by another person's need and choose to respond with our whole hearts.